Welcome back, Officers of the Republic. It's your Coruscant Underworld Police Chief APGAINS here, and I have made 17 videos talking about ships in the last month since we've known that we were going to have an increase in the ships that we needed. We all assumed that it would just probably be Kyber 1. Turns out it's all of Kyber, so everyone who's been paying attention, you guys are welcome. I'm glad you guys prepared. Those of you guys following the APGAINS approved farming strategy, the best farming strategy in the game. Of course, you guys are prepared as well. This caught a lot of people off guard, and I've heard a lot of people pretty upset about the fleet change, and I just want to do like a definitive statement on, why it's, not only was it not unexpected, we knew it was coming for at least a month, but also it's not a bad thing. Let me know if this applies to you guys. Like you hop in your GACs, right? And you do good, you're winning, you're a good player, you got a good account, blah, 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 blah. You climb, you end up facing someone who's got a lot higher GP, right? There's, I'd say, 3 sections of the game. There's the early game, the mid game, and the late game. And the early game, which is like 0 to like 2 to 3 million, I usually classify the beginning of the mid game about 4 million GP, or when you get your first Galactic Legend or something like that, I don't know. However you classify the early game is literally 100% all about, do you have more teams than your opponent, right? If you got more teams, you win. The mid game, from that 3 to 4 all the way up to like the 6-ish million range, the best strategy is, of course, always having like a bunch of ships. As I've talked about 17 times, probably more than that, if you include streams in the last however long, last month or so, right? And then the end game, of course, it's all about, do you have all the tools? Do you have all your GLs, your star killers, all that stuff? Do you have your Omicrons? Do you have your ships? Do you have good mods? Are you smart? Do you scout your opponent? And at the end game, I'd say 6-7 million plus. It comes down to that chess match where everyone has usually a lot of the same stuff in that 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 million GP range, and that's where a lot of the bigger people who talk about the game exist. But again, tell me if this relates to you guys. You've been facing bigger accounts, and you almost never, even before these GAC changes, you almost never have enough to place a solid defense and full clear, right? Like for ships, when the double ships came out, a lot of people didn't have 2 fleets. Some of us, the guys who were following the APGAINS approved farming strategy, we always prepare because we know ships are a must in this game, and definitely one of the big tools that free-to-play players have to kind of deal with people who spend a lot more money than us. So a lot of us were prepared, but a lot of people weren't, and then they caught up and it was fine. We got used to it. We put in all of our capital ships and stuff like that. The same thing's happening here. A lot of players who are used to being at the end game where they have all the tools, GAC doesn't ever really change all that much. The end game meta is so much different from where 90 to probably 95% of the players exist, where you and your opponent don't have the same amount of GP, you don't have the same characters, you don't have the same ships, you don't have the same anything, right? GAC for 90-ish% of players is very strategic in that it changes every single round. When you're 7, 8, 9, 10 million GP, a lot of these players have been playing the exact same way for so long that, they have a very, very specific skill set just in that area, and then when it gets mixed up, it causes confusion and can, upset people. So there's going to be a lot of those top-end players who are going to be mad about that, but I mean, they're smart guys. They're good at the game. They're spending money. They got resources hoarded up. They're going to be fine, right? There are enough ships. I mean, the way the Executor AI nerf, especially, I mean, ship defenses are not going to be that hard, right? There's not going to be a lot of people who are going to struggle on ships defense. Yes, like you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 capital ships. I mean, most of us have been placing weaker defenses in favor of high efficiency offenses, or not full clearing in favor of stronger defenses for years, right? For most of the players in this game, that is the GAC meta. It's, do you use offense and full clear and hope you're more efficient than your opponent, or do you stonewall them on defense and try to only clear, more characters or a zone, and try to hold your opponent to less, and that's how you win. That's how GAC is played for most people, and that's why I always talk about GAC being kind of like 2 different games, right? I talk about GAC kind of being 2 different things. So we've talked about this a bunch, and a lot of people have, really enjoyed the analogy of like a chess match, right? In GAC. All right. at the end game, you're playing chess. It's all about your individual skill as a player. It's not so much about anything else other than, like, do you have the skill to beat your opponent, right? That's what a lot of GACs come down to, is that. But for everyone else, the GAC meta is not about, who has the best individual skill. It's who has the best, farming guide, who has the best, scouting, who has the best ships, who has the best characters. There's so many variables. You're playing chess against someone who has a different number and different selection of chess pieces than you do. And that's what I think is so amazing about GAC, is it's not you place a tough defense and you full clear every time and you use the same exact counters against the same defense because everyone does the same thing over and over again. And this time you got 64 instead of 65, so you lost by a banner or you won by a banner. That's what makes GAC fun to me, right? Is that it changes every single round. Sometimes you don't have the characters or the fleets or the whatever you need, the GLs even for a lot of players now in these certain situations. You don't have, every tool at your disposal. You have to think outside the box. That's why we've been, we got to like Kyber 5, and then at that point, every opponent's 2, 3, 4 million GP higher than us. And, we can't really do much of anything because they're just so much more massive than we are. That's what she said. And it becomes that unique and interesting challenge while my Cat and Kenobi AI go out in full auto and absolutely don't do anything here. But that's what makes GAC so fun, is that, like, it's not fair. And you have those matchups where, you're probably boned, but then when you pull out a ship-only defense and it works and you're like, yo, what the heck is going on here? Like, how did I pull this off? You're excited, you're on the pooper right now, and you run out of the bathroom and you go tell your friends or your wife or whoever the heck you live with. And it's like, oh my God, like, we just went absolutely crazy. And this matchup that, statistically most people probably wouldn't win, we came out and we had a good time. We performed well, we planned well, and we won. I have this guy, but yet they suck at full autoing, which is kind of annoying. So I'm going to play this manually just because I'm pissed. That being said, not pissed at ship changes. I think they're awesome. But I think this is going to be kind of like a renaissance of GAC for a lot of these top-end players who have known no other life than just, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again against the same people over and over and over again. Like, they're going to finally have an opportunity to experience what Grand Arena is like for the rest of players, and it's interesting and it's exciting, and I think they're going to really enjoy it. So, if you hear people saying that, this is the worst change ever and this is awful and this, that, and the other, give them a couple of matches, let them, re-experience for the first time what GAC is really about for the rest of us, and they're gonna come around, right? They're gonna realize that, you know what, this is not all that bad, right? We've had worse. The game's been in worse places. We'll adapt. They're smart players. They'll figure it out. I'm going to win this battle because I'm better than the AI, and the AI sucks at autoing apparently. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you, and I'll see you later.